I left my cheating wife, and now she wants me back. I never thought I'd be the guy who walked away from his marriage. I took my vows seriously, through sickness and health, for better or worse. But what happens when the worse is betrayal? It started with a feeling, an itch at the back of my mind that wouldn't go away. The late nights, the hushed phone calls, the sudden interest in wearing perfume even when she was just going out with friends. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I wanted to be wrong. Then, one evening, I came home early from work. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Our dog, Rusty, didn't come running like he always did. That's when I heard them. Muffled voices upstairs. A soft giggle that wasn't meant for me. I don't remember walking up the stairs. My mind shut off like it was protecting me from what I was about to see. When I pushed open the bedroom door, there she was. My wife, Emily, wrapped in the arms of another man. She gasped. He scrambled for his clothes. But me? I just stood there. I didn't yell. I didn't punch him like some action hero in a movie. I just walked away. That night, I packed a bag. Emily cried. She begged me to talk. But what was left to say? She had already said everything with her actions. That was 6 months ago. I filed for divorce, moved into a small apartment across town, and started rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, but every day got a little better. Until last week. That's when Emily called. "I miss you," she whispered. "I made a mistake." I should have hung up. I should have told her that mistakes have consequences. But instead I said, "What do you want, Emily?" And now she wants to meet. I don't know why I agreed to meet Emily. Maybe part of me wanted closure. Maybe part of me wanted to see if she'd changed. Or if she was just lonely. We met at a small cafe, the kind we used to go to when we were still in love. She was already there when I arrived, nervously stirring a cup of tea she probably wasn't drinking. When she looked up, I felt something unexpected. Nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just nothing. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. I sat down. "What do you want, Emily?" She swallowed, her hands shaking slightly. I need you to know how sorry I am. I ruined everything. I hurt you and I hate myself for it." I leaned back, studying her. "And now that I'm finally moving on, you suddenly miss me?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I never stopped missing you. I was stupid. I thought I wanted something different, something exciting, but the second you walked out that door, I realized what I'd lost." I sighed. "You didn't lose me, Emily. You threw me away." She flinched, but she didn't deny it. "I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I want another chance. I'll do anything." I should have told her no. I should have stood up and left. But instead, I asked the question that had been haunting me for months. "Why?" She blinked, confused. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Were you unhappy? Did I do something wrong?" She shook her head. "No, you were perfect. That's the worst part. I wasn't unhappy. I was just selfish. I wanted to feel desired, chased. And I didn't stop to think about what I already had." I let her words sink in. It was an honest answer, a painful one. Finally, I said, "I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Her lip trembled. "Would you be willing to try?" I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I didn't answer Emily's question right away. Would I be willing to try? I should have said no. I should have told her that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. But the truth was, part of me wasn't sure. I had spent months trying to forget her, trying to erase the memories of what we had. But now, sitting across from her, I realized something. I had never stopped loving her. And that terrified me. She reached for my hand, hesitated, then pulled back. "Can we at least talk? Maybe have dinner sometime?" I exhaled. "I don't know, Emily." She nodded, biting her lip. "I get it. I don't deserve anything from you. But I had to try." She stood up, and for a brief second, I saw something in her eyes. Regret, desperation, maybe even love. Then she turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving me alone with my thoughts. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about her, about what she said. What if she really had changed? What if this wasn't just guilt, but a real desire to fix what she had broken? But then again, what if it was just loneliness? One night, my best friend, Jake, came over. He had been my rock through the divorce, always reminding me that I deserved better. "So let me get this straight," he said, popping open a beer. "She cheated on you, destroyed your trust, and now she wants another shot? And you're actually considering it?" I rubbed my face. "I don't know, man. I still have feelings for her." Jake sighed. "Look, I get it. But you need to ask yourself, are you thinking about taking her back because you love her? Or because you miss what you had?" That question stuck with me. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in a while. I went on a date. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a woman named Sarah, a coworker of Jake's. She was kind, funny, and easy to talk to. For the first time in months, I felt normal. And that's when I knew. I had been stuck in the past, holding on to memories of a woman who had betrayed me. But I didn't have to be. That night, Emily called again. "I miss you," she whispered. This time, I didn't hesitate. "I don't." And with that, I hung up, finally ready to move on. After I hung up on Emily, I thought that was it. I thought I had finally closed that chapter of my life. But life has a funny way of dragging you back into the things you try to escape. A week later, she showed up at my apartment. I had just gotten home from work when I heard the knock. The moment I opened the door, I regretted it. Emily stood there, eyes red and puffy, holding a small envelope in her hands. "Please," she said, "just give me 5 minutes." I crossed my arms. "Emily, we said everything we needed to say." "No," she whispered. "You said everything. I never got to tell you the whole truth." I should have shut the door. But something in her voice, something raw, almost desperate, made me hesitate. "5 minutes," I said. "That's it." She stepped inside, looking around my small apartment. It was nothing like the house we used to share. Just a couch, a TV, and a kitchen that barely had anything in it. "You haven't made this place feel like home," she said softly. I scoffed. Maybe because my home was destroyed 6 months ago. She flinched, but nodded. I deserve that. I sighed, already regretting letting her in. "What do you want, Emily?" She handed me the envelope. "Before you make up your mind about me, just read this." I frowned but took it. Inside was a letter, her handwriting shaky and uneven. I read the first line and felt my stomach twist. "Ethan, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know the truth. Not the excuse I gave you before, but the real reason I cheated. 6 months ago, I got some news. News I didn't know how to handle. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I didn't tell you because I was scared. Scared of becoming a burden. Scared that you'd stay with me out of pity. So I did the one thing that would make you leave. I pushed you away in the worst way possible. I never loved him. He was nothing. Just a mistake. A way to make sure you wouldn't feel trapped with someone who might become sick, helpless, and broken. I know I ruined everything. And I know you may never look at me the same way again, but I needed you to know. It was never about not loving you. It was about loving you too much to make you suffer with me. I'm sorry. For all of it. Emily." My hands shook as I put the letter down. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Emily stared at me, her eyes filled with silent tears. "I should have told you. I should have let you decide, but I was weak." I ran a hand through my hair, my mind racing. I had spent 6 months hating her, believing she had just thrown me away for something cheap and meaningless. But this was different. This was worse. because now I didn't know what to do. I sat there, staring at Emily, my mind spinning. The letter in my hands felt heavier than it should have, like it carried the weight of 6 months of pain, confusion, and anger. Multiple sclerosis. She cheated on me. To push me away? I swallowed hard. Emily, why? Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Tears welled in her eyes. Because I was scared, Ethan. I thought if I told you, you'd feel obligated to stay, that you'd give up your life to take care of me. I shook my head, frustration bubbling up. That wasn't your decision to make. You didn't protect me. You betrayed me. She nodded slowly. I know. And I regret it every single day. I looked away, my thoughts a tangled mess. For months I had lived with the belief that she had simply grown bored of me, that I had been nothing more than a convenient placeholder until something more exciting came along. But this was a different kind of betrayal. You should have trusted me, I muttered. You should have let me decide what I wanted. Instead, you broke me. Emily covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I know, she whispered. And if I could take it back, I would. But I can't. All I can do now is tell you the truth. I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. My chest felt tight, my emotions warring inside me. I don't know what you want from me, Emily, I said. Do you expect me to just forget everything? To pretend like this never happened? She shook her head. Number, I don't expect anything. I needed you to know. And if you never want to see me again, I'll understand. I clenched my jaw, my hands forming fists at my sides. The love I once had for her was still there, buried under layers of hurt and betrayal. But was it enough? Could I ever look at her without remembering how she had shattered my trust? I need time, I finally said. She nodded, wiping at her tears. Take all the time you need. Then she turned and walked out of my apartment, leaving me alone with the truth. And for the first time since this all started, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. The moment Emily walked out of my apartment, I felt like I could finally breathe. But the relief only lasted a few seconds before the weight of everything came crashing down. She had multiple sclerosis. She cheated to push me away. She thought she was doing me a favor. I didn't know what to do with that information. For 6 months, I had built up walls of anger and resentment to protect myself from the pain. Now, those walls were crumbling, and I was left standing in the rubble, unsure of what to feel. I spent the next few days in a daze. I went to work, went to the gym, even went on another date with Sarah. But nothing felt right. My mind kept circling back to Emily. Did I still love her? Could I ever forgive her? Did she even deserve forgiveness? The logical part of me screamed no. She had hurt me in the worst way possible, shattering my trust, humiliating me, and forcing me to rebuild my life from scratch. But the emotional part of me, the part that still remembered our late-night talks, our lazy Sunday mornings, and the way she used to look at me like I was her entire world, wasn't ready to let go. I needed answers. So, against my better judgment, I called her. She answered on the first ring. Ethan? Hey, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. Can we talk? We met at a quiet park just outside of town. Emily looked different, not just physically, but in the way she carried herself. There was no arrogance, no defensiveness, just exhaustion. I got straight to the point. How bad is it? She let out a slow breath. The symptoms come and go. Some days I feel completely normal. Other days I can barely get out of bed. I nodded, my chest tightening. And you thought cheating was the best way to handle that? She winced. I know it was a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. But at the time, it made sense in my messed up head. I didn't want you to feel trapped. I thought if I hurt you enough, you'd walk away and never look back. I let her words sink in. I had spent so long believing she had betrayed me out of boredom, out of selfishness. but the truth was somehow more complicated and, in a way, even more painful. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had loved, the woman who had broken me, the woman who was now sitting across from me, waiting for a second chance she wasn't sure she'd get. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again," I admitted. She nodded. "I don't expect you to, but I'd do anything to try and fix what I broke." I exhaled, my heart pounding. "I need time." "I'll wait," she whispered. As I walked away from her that evening, I realized something. I had a choice. I could walk away and close this chapter forever, or I could take a risk, knowing that the road ahead would be anything but easy. For the first time in months, the decision was mine. For the next few days, I wrestled with my thoughts. Emily had betrayed me. That was a fact. No matter the reason, she had taken our marriage, something sacred, and shattered it. And yet, now I knew why. I knew about the diagnosis, the fear, the self-destruction that had led her to do something so unforgivable. The problem was, understanding didn't equal forgiveness. And love? Love didn't automatically rebuild trust. I was standing at a crossroads. One path led away from Emily for good, and the other led into something uncertain, something that could either heal us or destroy me all over again. I just had to decide which road to take. "You're seriously considering this?" Jake stared at me like I'd lost my mind. We were sitting at a bar, nursing our drinks. I had called him because I needed perspective, and if there was one person who had been unwavering in his opinion about Emily, it was Jake. "She cheated on you, man. Does the reason really matter?" he continued. I sighed. "It matters to me. It doesn't change what she did, but it changes how I see it." Jake took a sip of his beer, shaking his head. "Let me ask you this. If she had just told you about her diagnosis instead of cheating, would you have stayed?" I didn't hesitate. "Of course." "Then why should she get a second chance now? She didn't trust you enough to tell you the truth back then, so why trust her now?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. Jake sighed. "Look, I get it. You loved her. Maybe you still do. But love without trust? That's a ticking time bomb." I nodded slowly, but his words didn't make my choice any easier. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Memories of Emily flooded my mind. Our wedding day, our inside jokes, the nights we spent talking until dawn. Then came the memories of the betrayal, the man in our bed, the way she had begged for forgiveness when it was already too late. I closed my eyes, my heart hammering. Could I ever truly trust her again? Could I risk my heart knowing there was a chance she'd break it all over again? By the time the sun rose, I knew my answer. I picked up my phone and dialed Emily's number. She answered on the first ring. "Ethan?" I took a deep breath. "I've made my decision." Emily held her breath on the other end of the line. "I've made my decision," I repeated, my voice steady. She exhaled shakily. "And?" I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "I can't do this, Emily. I can't go back." Silence. A long, painful silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I understand." And for the first time, I believed her. We met one last time at the park. It felt fitting. Neutral ground, away from the ghosts of our past. Emily sat on the bench, hands folded in her lap. She looked different. Not just sad, but resigned, like she had already known how this would end. I sat beside her, staring at the fading sunset. "I wanted to see you in person," I said, "because after everything, you at least deserve that." She nodded. "Thank you." I took a deep breath. I loved you, Emily. I really did. And part of me always will. But love isn't enough when trust is gone. What we had, it's broken. And I can't rebuild something that was never supposed to be destroyed in the first place. Tears welled in her eyes. "I hate what I did to us, Ethan. I hate that I lost you." I swallowed hard. "Me too." She wiped at her face, forcing a small smile. I just wanted you to know. I never stopped loving you. I gave her a sad smile. And that's the tragedy of it all, isn't it? The wind carried our silence, heavy with unspoken words. Then slowly I stood. Goodbye, Emily. She looked up at me, searching my face like she was memorizing me one last time. Goodbye, Ethan. And just like that, I walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running from my past. I was walking toward my future.